The holidays are among us, and there are a lot of temptations out there this time of year with all these delicious treats and candies and desserts. So I wanted to give you guys options that you guys can have that you could have on Thanksgiving or Christmas or any holiday party or just during the holiday season. But I wanted to give you options for single-serve keto holiday desserts. This time of year can be very hard for us on the keto diet. A lot of us are going to holiday parties or having family meals like Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, and the rest of the family or friends might not be on the keto diet, so there might not be an option for you to have. And there's all these temptations and treats and desserts, and it's really difficult to stay keto during that time of year. So I wanted to give you guys options where you could actually just make your own single serve keto dessert and bring it to that holiday meal. Or if you're hosting Thanksgiving or Christmas, that you could have your own little special keto dessert to have. Also, during this time of year with 2020, a lot of us are actually just staying home for the holidays. And so you don't really need to make a giant entire keto pie or cake for Christmas because you're the only one that's going to be eating it. So I wanted to make these recipes for you guys with that in mind as well. Today's recipes are all easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to make a keto pecan pie mug cake, a single serve pumpkin pie, and a single serve panna cotta with a fresh raspberry syrup on top. Let's start with the pecan pie mug cake. Now I have this recipe on my website. If you guys are interested in it, make sure you click down below for the full printable version. Mug cakes are super easy to make because everything is made in one bowl and then you can microwave it. You could actually bake it in the oven too, but I just usually microwave it because it's very fast and very easy, and you can be having a pecan pie mug cake in no time. So in a small bowl, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of almond flour, 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, 1 tablespoon of golden monk fruit sweetener. My favorite brand is by Lakanto, but you could use brown swerve here too. A half a teaspoon of baking powder, and then a pinch of salt. 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of melted butter, 2 tablespoons of Chalk Zero maple pecan syrup. If you don't have their maple pecan syrup, you could just use whatever sugar-free syrup you have. We're gonna mix this all together until it's combined, and then I'm gonna pour it into a ramekin just because I think it looks prettier when it's poured into a fancier dish. But it is a mug cake, so you could certainly make this in a mug or just microwave it in that bowl that you mixed it all together in. You want to microwave it for 60 to 85 seconds or until it fluffs up and it's cooked all the way through. And while that's cooling, we're going to move on to our pecan pie topping. So in a small bowl, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of chopped pecans, 1 tablespoon of cold butter that's cut into cubes, and a tablespoon of Chalk Zero maple pecan syrup. Once again, any sort of sugar-free syrup will work here in this recipe. You'll also need a pinch of salt. Then we're gonna smash this all together with a fork just to cut that butter into the nuts and the sweetener. And then we'll sprinkle it on top of our cake. We're gonna pop it into the microwave for around 20 to 30 seconds. This will just allow the butter to melt and it will just seep down into our cake base. And then your pecan pie mug cake is done. It's ready to eat. You could actually make this up ahead of time too. So maybe the day before, a couple days before, just wrap it in plastic wrap and pop it in the refrigerator and then reheat it up in the microwave or the oven when you want to eat it. Our next recipe is for a single serve pumpkin pie. Now, I usually don't make pumpkin pies in my house unless I'm hosting Thanksgiving and I'm having a lot of people over and I know that they don't really want to have a lot of excess carbs or sugar, so I'll make a keto pumpkin pie in that case. But when I'm not doing that, and it's maybe just me eating it or my husband who also eats keto, then I'll just make this single serve pumpkin pie recipe. We're gonna start by making the crust. In a small bowl, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of almond flour, 2 teaspoons of coconut flour, 1 tablespoon of golden monk fruit sweetener, a hefty pinch of xanthan gum, and a hefty pinch of salt, and 2 teaspoons of chilled butter that's cut into cubes. You want to mix this all together with a fork, or if you have a pastry blender, you could do that too, but it's just a small amount of crust, so a fork's probably going to work best in this recipe. Next, we're gonna press our pie crust into a pie plate, and I'm gonna be using a small pie plate. This is maybe around like 4 inches in diameter. I'll have it linked down below, but you just want it big enough so it's gonna fit all of your crust plus your filling. So press that all the way around and up the edges too. Now it's time to mix up our pumpkin pie filling. So in a small bowl, you're gonna add a 1/4 cup of pumpkin puree, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, 1 tablespoon of golden monk fruit sweetener, 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Mix it together and then add it on top of your pie crust. Next, we're gonna bake this in a 325-degree oven for about 20 minutes. Top it with some whipped cream and then just dig in. Once again, this is a make-ahead recipe, so you could definitely make this up the day before or the night before and then heat it up if you need to, or just enjoy it cold the next day. Next up, we're making keto panna cotta with a fresh raspberry syrup to go on top. This makes the perfect recipe for the holidays, especially Christmas dinner. It also is a make-ahead recipe, so you can make this up ahead of time just to limit the amount of time that you're spent in the kitchen when you're making all the other holiday meals. To start, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of macadamia nut milk to a small bowl and then sprinkle some gelatin on top. You don't have to use macadamia nut milk, you could use whatever nut milk you want in this recipe. And we're gonna set that aside for around 10 minutes just so that that gelatin can start to bloom. Next, we move over to a saucepan and we're gonna simmer together our remaining macadamia nut milk, which would be 1/4 cup, along with 1 tablespoon of confectioner's sweetener. I like to use confectioner's swerve in this recipe, but whatever sort of powdered sweetener you have that easily dissolves will work well. We're gonna stir this until our sweetener is dissolved and it's heated up a little bit. And then once our gelatin bloom is ready, we're gonna add that in. Stir it until the gelatin is completely dissolved. Then add in a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract for flavor. Next, we're gonna be adding keto-approved yogurt to this recipe. There are some keto-approved ones. I'll have them linked down below for you guys if you're interested. The one I used was Two Goods, and I used their plain version. You could use vanilla too in this recipe, or a different flavor if you wanted to. I just always work with plain yogurt. If you can't get a hold of any keto-approved yogurt, you could substitute with Greek yogurt. Just really look at the nutrition label and make sure that there's not a ton of carbohydrates in there. Once everything's combined, we pour it into our serving dish. Next, this goes in the refrigerator for several hours to set up. When you're ready to serve or eat it, you can make up your raspberry sauce. So in a saucepan, you want to add 1/2 cup of raspberries. I also like to add in a tablespoon of water just to make it more syrupy. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to because the berries will release some fluid, but I like to have it more syrupy, so I add a little bit of extra water to that. 1 tablespoon of sweetener of your choice. I like to use Lakanto's monk fruit here. Once it's all bubbly and the berries have just kind of lost their shape, then it's ready to add in the rest of our ingredients. I like to add a little bit of basil leaf for some flavor as well as some orange zest. And then to help it kind of stick together and be more syrupy or gel-like, I add a little bit of xanthan gum. pour this on top of your panna cotta, and then this recipe is ready to eat. You could also pour this panna cotta into a mold if you wanted to. A lot of people will do a pretty decorative molds for panna cotta around the holidays and then drizzle that raspberry syrup on top. So that's definitely an option here. I just opted for a little jar just because it's just me gonna be eating it. If you guys are interested in this recipe, you could actually double it or triple it or quadruple it. I'll have a full recipe for you listed down below, but it is for multiple servings, but I'll have the single serve version as well. And that's it, you guys. There are 3 options for you guys to enjoy throughout the holidays if you're the only one eating a keto dessert. I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell down below so that you get notified every time I post a new recipe.